All right, welcome to week 8 of the Agentforce Specialist Study Group. Today, Rita Hartman will be presenting prompt engineering.
Thank you, Meredith. So we're going to go ahead and talk today about grounding, and all of you, our previous presenters, have been a tough act to follow. And let's face it, grounding is not all that exciting, although it's a big portion of the test, I hear. So today we're going to look at part 3 of the prompt journey. We're going to review grounding. We're going to talk about use cases for grounding. And if I'm really lucky, we'll have some other stuff to talk about. So we'll see if when we get there, how it works out. So even though we're just talking about grounding today, in its own session, we split it out and it's its own session. It's really working together with all of these other items that we have on the screen there. So it talks about secure data retrieval, data masking, zero data retention, and toxicity, all relate to grounding. Without the proper grounding, none of those other things can really happen. Well, maybe the secure data can happen, but we want to rely on all of these items on this list to make sure that the AI process is going to work efficiently. And we have a little tip over here from Astro that you guys can read later. Okay. All right. So what is grounding, right? We talked about this in pretty much all of our earlier sessions. We learned about it, but today we're really going to talk about it today in context of how it relates to Salesforce and how Salesforce uses grounding in their AI solutions. And I have a very easy definition for you. And the definition is: grounding rules are the training wheels that align our AI with our business ethics, our business safety, and our corporate values. So in other words, grounding is going to make it easy for us to fill in those prompts and get better data back. It's also going to reduce the amount of the hallucination that our LLM is going to do. And I've seen some pretty good things on the internet about what it does when it does it really bad. So today we're going to accomplish grounding. We're going to use that grounding to define the sources that the LLM, I picked a bad day to talk today, LLM will use to provide your responses. So the training wheels in my little picture there are the verifiable resources of the information that you connect to your LLM model so you can improve the responses. Okay, so our LLM is going to put the training wheels on our AI prompts. So let's keep going. All right, I have here on this next slide for you some examples of the sources that you can add to your prompts for grounding. And there's several on here, and I'm going to go into a little bit more depth than what I could put on the slide. So we'll talk about it in context of what's there, but I'll add some flavor here. So we can use our CRM data, or customer relationship management Salesforce data, and we can do that by using it with the objects and records that are within the CRM, such as accounts, contacts, leads, opportunities, cases, quotes, orders, and any custom objects. We can also use it with our case and our support history to pull prior customer interactions to provide relevant recommendations. And we can also look in our CRM for customer preferences and any activity that customer hasn't, well, the customer hasn't logged the activity, our end users have logged the activity, but we can help use that activity that has been recorded in the system to personalize the responses based on any past interactions we've had with that customer. We can also use knowledge-based documentation. So Salesforce knowledge articles, where verified company knowledge is in there for support to use accurate support responses. We can use public and internal FAQs, so we can ensure that AI generates answers that align with our official company guidelines. And we can use product and service documentation, provided you have some. A lot of our customers don't have any. But we can provide relevant information about their features, any troubleshooting guides that they have, and any specifications that are documented in any of those product and service documentation records. We can also use communication channels. So we can look at emails, we can look at chats. If you have Service Cloud, you can look at the Service Cloud messaging. If you have Slack, you can look at the Slack. AI can analyze any previous customer agent conversations to provide contextual relevant responses to our customers or to our end users. We can also use call transcripts. So it will help AI understand past discussions for better communication recommendations. And if we go to the other side of the screen there, we can look at external and integrated data sources. These are things like our ERP and order management systems that can ensure that the AI can reference real-time inventory numbers, shipping information, and billing details. We can use third-party APIs where AI can go fetch live data from an external service, such as pricing updates, weather conditions, or marketing trends to provide a better response. We can also ground them to customer portals and community forums. So AI can ground the responses in real-time customer discussions. And for those of us who love the sales side, that's where I started. That's where my that was my roots. I worked in sales ops. So for that, I spent a lot of time writing reports. So we can use AI, real-time analytics, and business metrics to ground insights in the sales performance, customer trends, and services efficiencies. We can use historical data comparisons in that area as well, and we can reference past performance data in to generate projections and summaries and/or summaries. I'll get that out right. Our security and trust layer can also be used, so we can use user permissions or access controls to ensure that the responses are grounded based on who is requesting the data, and we can use compliance and governance filters to prevent AI from accessing unauthorized or sensitive data. So some key takeaways from this big long list is that dynamic grounding ensures that AI responses are real-time, contextual, and data-driven. The sources can include Salesforce records, knowledge bases, communication logs, and external integrations. And the Einstein trust layer ensures that the AI only accesses the information that we authorized it to access. I can talk, I promise. So I have on this next slide for you kind of a visual. So when you're working with a prompt template, the data provided is a result of data inputs. So we have inputs that get into the data provided box there, and we're going to hook through Salesforce our prompt template to the data provided, and that's going to feed it into the LLM along with the information that we put in the prompt. So we can ground it by saying only use these areas and then prompt it to give us more information. And this allows the LLM better information so it can use the data you provided for a better result. And remember, as I said just a moment ago, it's all in confines of that trust layer, so it's going to be secure. So there's, whoops, I went too fast. Let me go back. Sorry. So there are 3 ways to provide data into your prompt. As part of the prompt builder, you can use the information that's provided here in this resource list that you see, and you can pull it directly from there. That's probably for someone like me who's a non-developer, the easiest way to do it, right? I can find information in there. I can ground my prompt. But if you're a little bit more technical, and I know some of you on here are, then we can also use a provided flow. So Salesforce has provided a template triggered prompt flow, which is already bound to a prompt template. And because there's bounding of the template to the flow, anything that you put in the flow makes those elements available inside the prompt builder. So if you look on the right-hand side of the screen here, you'll see as a resource is a flow. And if you click on that if that little flow wasn't in front of it, to give you an example, down here on the bottom, when you add it to your prompt, you get a list of experiences matching the guest interest. That's the sample prompt. You can see that the flow was added and what we added from the flow. So if you're a flow writer, or if you're not and you want to become one, this is a good way to do your grounding. The next way to do it is through Apex, and my disclaimer is I'm not a programmer. I don't know how to write Apex. I can read it well enough to be dangerous. So my disclaimer is that I'm only providing you a screenshot of a sample Apex flow, or not flow, Apex piece, because I can't tell you what it's doing, but it's there and you can use that to ground your prompts as well. So the three things again that you can ground with is the prompt builder itself, a prompt template triggered flow, sorry, and Apex. And what you choose is really going to be based on an individual decision by your company or your business, or if you're a consultant, your customer that you're working with. If you don't have a developer, obviously you're not going to do the Apex. If you have some really good configuration engineers, you can use the flow. And if you're like Rita, you're going to use the prompt builder, because I can't do either one of those right now. So now we're going to look at 8 use cases. And before we get into the use cases, are there any questions or comments you guys want to add? Oh, so quiet. Oh, thank you, Ryan.
I imagine that of those 3 options, the flow and the Apex would probably be more granular and give you more flexibility than the first option. I'm just assuming.
So I also consider it like we had a couple of things taken away from us in the last few years, right? We had workflow rules taken away. We had process builder taken away. I feel like prompt builder has given us that back in a more user-friendly perspective than building. So that is kind of the way that I look at the prompt builder piece, is it's giving me back that usability factor that makes me a little less afraid to go near it. And I say that just because, I think we're all clear. I am learning flows. That's all I can say about it. And prompt builder has made me less afraid of learning flows, because it really is, it extends and expands the reach of it so greatly. Anyway, and I share all that just because it creates that usability factor that something like, even flows, definitely Apex, would make someone go, oh, I don't know that I can go do this. That was my perspective on prompt builder.
If I'm not going to touch Apex code ever, but yeah. And I really get frustrated with flows because they're not intuitive to me at all. Like, why do I have this choice over here when I'm never going to use it? It's one of my pet peeves. Like, send me down a path that doesn't go anywhere. Okay. Anyway, there is a lot of good resources that you can look for. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there by developers who would take you through that code. Not that it would mean anything to me, but if your code like friendly, you might look at that and go, I could copy that and make a couple tweaks. Because I think a lot of code is copied and tweaked. Why not? Why reinvent the wheel on your code? So especially if you're a good programmer, you don't want to start from scratch. So anyway, I went down a rabbit hole there, but before I go on, is there any other questions? Is that a question, Meg, or were you just no questions? All right, good deal. Okay, so let's talk about these use cases. So there's 8 of them. I'm sorry there's so many, but I thought it was important that you saw some good examples so that when you're sitting for the exam, you can like think back to this. What I have for each use case is what is the use case? Well, you'll see here in just a second what I've got. So a customer asks a chatbot for troubleshooting steps related to a product issue. Now, I didn't put questions in mine like you all have with the ABCs. So if anybody wants to chime in and say, I think it might be, feel free.
Are you asking like what the prompt template would be? What are you asking? Sorry.
No, what would you use to ground the template
Oh,
prompt? What source would you add to your prompt builder to make sure that the response that a customer gets when they're talking to a chatbot gives them the proper troubleshooting steps to a product issue? So,
Product?
well, let's see. We're going to use the Salesforce knowledge base because the AI is going to pull verified articles, FAQs, troubleshooting guides, and all the information that you can provide to a customer with an accurate answer. So why? Because it ensures that the AI response only references approved support content that will hopefully avoid misinformation. So what we don't want to do is give them a set of instructions on how to do something when it's not the right steps, right? And early on in my career, I was a support manager in a support call center, and I can tell you that when support reps are overwhelmed and in a hurry, they will give them whatever steps they want at the time. I think this will fix it. So of course, back then we didn't have the information at our fingertips like we have it now. So I would hope that all of those folks that worked for me way back then have moved along the AI journey as well and are using verified resources. All right, use case number 2, a sales rep AI assistant. A sales rep wants AI to suggest cross-sell or upsell opportunities. Any ideas?
would it just simply be opportunities?
It could be. It could be opportunities. So we're going to look at all the CRM data, right? We're going to look at the account, the opportunity, the purchase history, and any preferences that are documented within the activity. And I know not all companies use chatter and activity logs and all that, but if it's there, it's going to be data that AI can grab. So it'll analyze any previous customer interactions and buying history, so it can generate tailored sales recommendations to that sales rep based on real-time customer data, kind of directing them to what they should be focusing on, hopefully. Or it might not direct them to what they want to focus on, but it'll give them plenty of information to look at to say, I should probably call this customer versus that one. Maybe. I don't know. They're salespeople, who knows? All right, case 3. A support agent needs AI to suggest the next best action for solving their case or resolving their case.
CRM data using cases.
Case history and knowledge base, absolutely. Thank you, Carolyn. So again, we're only going to do the Einstein. We're going to use that Einstein trust layer when we're sending the information out. But we want to use that case history and knowledge base information. So it's very similar to looking at resolved cases and suggesting proven solutions. Again, way back when we had to like do searches on the cases to find out. I know there was a case 3 months ago that this happened and I can't remember how we solved it. And we would spend hours searching, right? Not anymore. It's, I mean, today it would be much easier to be a support person than it was way back then. So AI is going to help us, of course. So it's going to reduce the solution time, it's going to improve accuracy, and it's going to maintain that data securely. Use case number 4. Quoting and pricing assistant. This one's also close to my heart, right? Because the sales team wants AI to generate a quick, accurate quote for a customer. And if you spend any time with me on a CPQ project, you know my famous line is, quoting is not for dummies. So we are going to let AI look through that CPQ data and pricing, the rules, the discounts. It's going to also probably, if we do it right, it's going to We probably want it to go look at their previous purchases if they've purchased something before. But for sure, we don't want them to give discounts they're not supposed to give. We don't want them to give pricing they're not supposed to give. And so we want to make sure that the pricing that we provide on that quick quote is within the confines of any of our price rules, any of our product rules, because we don't want them to put two products together that shouldn't be put together. And, if I sell A, I can't sell B kind of thing. We want to make sure all those rules are applied with the AI when we create that quote. And obviously following our approval processes, because it's going to ensure that we follow discounts and pricing rules when we generate that quote. And I don't know, I have a question for you all. If you if you are even a bit familiar with CPQ, do you think with this introduction of AI into CPQ and the fact that we're going to use AI to limit what we're allowed to put on a quote, would that ever eliminate approvals?
No. I said that. I would say no. I don't feel like the adoption of that would go well, but I feel like it could eventually.
You bring up a good question that I'm gonna put a pin in that I'll come back and ask later.
I agree. I don't think it would remove the need for approvals from at least like a business perspective, but I could understand why someone would maybe propose that of like, hey, do we really need approvals anymore if AI will just only add products and discounts based on our set of rules?
So I'm actually going to come back in now.
Sorry.
Because part of this is having the human in the loop.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know that it would remove as much as a part of its feedback, provide information on approval sets, let's say, right? So I think a matter of like, this is the right, similar with anything else when it comes to Agentforce. Here's the recommended email to send out. Is this what you're looking to send out? I think similarly, that's how the approval process will be engaged, is this is the recommendation for approval or not. I think it's more going to be a recommendation, not a removal of the human in the loop.
Yeah.
I could see it playing into increasing the threshold before somebody has to manually review for approval. In regard to, discount and pricing specifically, if a business process is manager has to review anything that's 5,000 or more, maybe they can bump that to maybe 10,000 or more.
No.
I can see it being like replacing product specific approvals. For example, if you have a new product introduced by your team and maybe the product management team wants to review to make sure it's being sold in the correct use cases, etc., I can see AI and Agentforce removing that type of approval needed. But to Marai's point, I don't think it will ever take the human out of the loop completely. Partly trust and adoption, like what Meg mentioned, but also the insight and the coaching conversations that go around the approval process and all that's involved with that. Just my 2 cents.
Because the approvals are not necessarily binary or tertiary, let's say, right? It may not be it's these products together sold to this industry. There could be 12 different factors that are involved. It has to do with this salesperson selling in this territory to this industry for this company that's aligned with this larger that's when I think of enterprises, when I think of approvals, very rarely is it going to be yes, here are the 3 things I'm required to be able to approve this thing.
I agree. And there's also so much strategizing and coaching and different perspectives offered during an approval conversation or process that I don't think that the human loop will ever be removed completely from that.
Do you think like it would be beneficial to have like for the approvals, like a record summary or whatever to say, hey, this is a summary? Like would AI be able to generate like, hey, this is a summary of what this approval is covering? So they have that at a glance. I don't know if
That's how I picture that being like the recommendation. Here is the recommendation for approval and here's the reason why.
Yeah. Okay.
I also think it would be kind of an interesting, not to go in a completely different direction, but it would be really cool for AI to be able to review all of the approved deals and summarize and identify trends and approvals, which could help the sales rep say, if I want my manager to approve this deal, I better hit these types of metrics and selling points.
But
as
and
a
you'll
kind of a
hear more
guide.
about this. It's important that they look at all the deals, not just the ones that were approved, but the ones that were rejected, so we don't end up with bias. And I say that because
Touche, yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, but I can see that summary, big picture being provided to assist in the formation of deals.
and I almost hear that as like, because this is, there are a bunch of ideas out there in the ideal world, but like when we're talking about lead scoring and opportunity scoring, it's almost like price scoring and approval scoring. And I say that just because it's a similar type of a predictive metric, right? We're talking predictive AI when we're looking at that.
Yeah, and it's for those of you who aren't CPQ in deep like I am, it's really difficult to get reporting out of the system. Even when you're using advanced approvals, you have to jump through some hoops to get reports that have any meaningful data on it that you can take a look at trends. So you end up creating data in a spreadsheet, pulling individual things from the system because Salesforce just can't put those objects together for some reason. It's gotten better, but
And I'll be interested to see what it looks like with Revenue Cloud Advanced being built with this technology already in the roadmap. You know what I mean? Like as they're looking at rebuilding that. So I'll be interested to see how that.
yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Yeah. Because right now and on my project, I'm in advanced approvals bleep. So anyway, let's move on to case number 5. Great conversation. An end user would like a draft email to follow up based on the latest customer conversation. Some of these are getting kind of a little repetitive. You all know the answers probably already.
Grounded in CRM data, but using sales emails.
Yep, CRM activity history and email, chats, notes. Of course, you have to have your end users put those chats and notes in the system. Well, the chats are probably in there, but it's really difficult to get your end users to put all the information in that they're supposed to put in. If they just understood that if they put it in, they'd have so much more information going on for them. But getting them to put it in is the first challenge, and then you can use it to ground your AI. So it references those past interactions and it will draft a context-aware response. So
Rita, I have a question around this.
okay.
When you're referencing the CRM activity history, are you referencing like Einstein Activity Capture or Salesforce Inbox, or are you just referring to the data that's actually input into Salesforce?
Well, I was referring to the data that was input into Salesforce, but that's a great point. I don't know if it will look at those other two references that you made.
It will, and it depends upon what you have. And so to answer that in a fuller fashion, when they're talking about grounding, they're looking at CRM data. They're looking at the other nuances of what's inside Salesforce. They're looking at Data Cloud, which you'll see more about as we continue to, to go on and see some different use cases. So it's really and then they'll look at a combination of the both, right? So which you could either get through Flow or something to that effect of integrating that information. So it's a matter of the grounding source. And so it can either be grounded, which several of these, most of what we're all using right now is grounded in CRM data, right? Because Data Cloud is new. And I think all of us can talk about the fact that Data Cloud it's I think still nuanced and people are figuring out what that looks like. So, but that is the bigger, not to steal your thunder there, but when I see these different sources that we're drawing from CRM data, CRM activity, it's all based on CRM data that's in Salesforce.
Right, and you have to purchase Data Cloud, right? So
You do, but in order to use AI, I'm just going to let you know, the more and more you read about it, to use it efficiently, you're going to have to purchase Data Cloud. It's just everything in there it's all about that. They all talk about that. So
yeah, but I guess out of the box, you could scrape the surface with the data that you
That's
already
right.
have in your
That's right.
CRM. And then when you find out that you don't have all the things that you want, you'll probably go buy Data Cloud, would be my guess. So, but again, you have to have the resources to buy it, the resources to keep it up, set it up correctly. Because I don't know if any of you follow Ian from Elements Cloud, but bad data gets bad stuff out, which is not a new concept for any of us on this call, right? So,
And that
and-
Einstein activity capture that you were asking about, yes, it does. It that will capture the data. It will enter in the CRM activity, like that activity for you based upon the Einstein activity. So it's basing it in that CRM data piece.
and it will look at custom objects too, right? So I don't know what
Well,
custom.
you got to use a flex. Got to ask your girl Meg about that. That if they're looking at custom objects, it's all about using the flex.
Flex. Yes.
She can teach next week. Sorry, I didn't mean to take yours away, Karen. Or is it a Branda? I can't remember who's teaching next week.
That's me.
Yeah. All right. I'm not trying to steal your week for sure. I'm just teasing Meg. All right. Use case number 6, real-time order taking. I have yet to be on a project where we integrate with an outside order tracking, but I'm sure it happens and occurs. So your customer is going to ask AI for a real-time update on their order or shipment. And I'm pretty sure we've all probably done this on any website we've ever ordered anything from. Like, where is my package? What is my tracking number? When did it ship? When can I expect the mailman to come and bring it to me? So it takes a little bit here, right? We need our ERP system along with our order management data if we have those connected to Salesforce, right? And we'd have to use an external API for pulling the shipping information in. So to me, this is starting to get complicated, right? We're looking at the accounting system, we're looking at our order management system, which may be the same system or not. And then we're also looking at a shipping system using an API. So this got real technical real fast, in my opinion, but it doesn't mean it's not doable. So it's going to find the latest tracking details about the order and the shipment, and it's going to pull those sources together. And why do we want to do it? Because it gives us up-to-date order statuses. Now, most of the organizations I've worked with are not selling hard lines. They're selling software or they're selling services. So you're not going to go out and look at an order management system. But there are lots of companies out there who sell hard lines, right? So they would have some type of system, if they are big enough, to track what's going on with their inventory and their order and how that all kind of pulls together and relates. All right, we're almost there. I'm sorry. I'm taking more time than everybody else. All right, a user asks for a contract clause or a company policy explanation. So this is kind of two cases together, right? Either a user wanting to know what's in their contract, or a company or an employee wants to know what the company policy is for something. So here we're going to look at the legal document repository or any internal compliance knowledge base that has that company policy in it. And it's going to only use the approved legal text and company policies that we ground it with. So we're not going to provide an answer like, sure, your lease is going to be able to be canceled next week, even though you signed it for a year. We don't want that to happen, right? So it ensures responses align with our legal guidelines and our company policies. And use case number 8, the final one, we made it, yay. A sales manager asks for real-time sales performance data for whatever period of time, right? It could be last week, last month, last quarter, last year, 2 years ago. Who knows what that sales manager is going to ask for? They're going to ask for stuff you think is crazy. Reports and dashboards can be used using live CRM data. AI pulls the sales metrics, the revenue trends, the forecasts, whatever you're grounding it with. And we want to use that because it's going to generate accurate, data-driven insights instead of relying on outdated spreadsheets that somebody created a month ago, which is now outdated because sales change every day. So those are our 8 cases. I'm sure there's more out there, but these are the 8 cases that I came up with. And this is just a little summary for you. I know there's not 8 on here. We kind of combined some things together, but this is kind of a real quick snapshot of what are we going to use when we're talking about customer interactions, when we're talking about sales and quotes, whether we're talking about order shipping, legal compliance, or business insights. So this kind of pulls these 8 use cases together. So let's take off our training wheels on our bicycle and let AI have the training wheels and guide us as we're riding our bike down that AI road.
Love it.
That's all. Any questions? Any more questions? Because I think we asked questions all throughout, which is what I like.
I really like the use cases. The one before the last one, that one was something that like immediately was like, oh man, that would solve like 5 different pain points for the project I'm on. So I really loved the real life use cases. And thank you.
Sure. And again, I'm sure there's more, right? I'm certainly not all the use case person. All right. I'm going to stop.